want to walk you through some of the assignments for this week 5, and we're going to start by looking at the place where we got the data file. So this is the Big Cities Health Coalition. You're looking at their web page here, and this is an organization that collects health data from these cities that are members, and they share that data and analyze it to produce reports and information. So you can go to this site and get these data files. So that's what I did to get the data file that you're going to work with. So let me just show you the reference as I did that. It's the Big Cities Health Coalition, and the page I went to was Data Visualization and Research, and so this is what that would look like in your reference list. So I did download the data, but it's a little too much. So if we take a look at the data here in Excel, I cut it down a bit. There were 82,000 rows, and I've cut that down to about 2,500 here. As you can see here, row 2,500 is the last row in our data, and then I removed some columns of information that you really don't need to do this assignment. So that'll make it a little easier for you to work with it. And I put the directions right on the same worksheet. But what I discovered was that I can't keep those there once you start working with the data here. It covers them up. So what you're going to need to do is, once you open this file, is to save it with your name as part of the file name, and then reopen the original data file that you downloaded, so you have both copies. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the one copy narrow enough that I can just see the data set, and then we'll open the other one. And that one we will narrow from the other side so that only the directions are going to show. So by arranging these side by side on your screen, they should fit, and you should be able to work with the data at the same time as you're able to read the directions and see those. So we've done the save, and so the next thing I do is make this data into a table. And so that means just clicking in the data somewhere and then doing this format as table, picking a style, and the top row are headers, labels for the columns, so you're going to have this box checked here, and we'll say OK. And so now we have the table. And we're going to use that to narrow down what we've got here. So there are 500 cities in this data. So we're going to click on the list arrow up here in the header, and we're going to click Select All to unselect all, and then we're going to go through and just pick 2 cities, at random here. So now we're just looking at the data for those 2 cities from the year 2014. And the data value is the actual percentage of the population who exhibited these particular unhealthy behaviors. So so we could try to make a chart out of this, and we can compare. So if you want to narrow this down, you can do that. So we'll go over here to the measure, and let's not select all. Let's just compare lack of physical activity and obesity. See if those. So now we see we have Des Moines and Savannah. So Des Moines has 25% of the population that lacks physical activity, and Savannah has 26.9, almost 27%. So there's less leisure physical activity in Savannah than in Des Moines. And if we look at obesity, we see that Des Moines has 32 and Savannah has 36. So So this is how you would use the table features to sort and filter this. But what we want to do now is we want to, again, click in the table, not outside, but in the table. And we're going to go to the Insert tab, and we're going to choose a pivot table. So we click on Tables, and we see Pivot Table, and do Recommended Pivot Table. And so this will just give you a whole assortment of possible pivot tables. So we'll just click the first one, it's fine. So now we have a new field, and I'm going to scroll down because we've gotten down to part 2 of our directions here, because now we're on a new sheet. And you could copy these directions over and put them underneath the table, but we're not going to do that. So we're first going to get rid of the things in the boxes down here. So now we have a blank pivot table, there's nothing in it, and we have this field list over here, and you can hide or show this field list. And so to start with, we're going to put the measure into the rows, and so that tells us these things that we were looking at. And then we're going to put the city names over here in the columns, so that'll put all the cities across here in the columns. And then we put the data value down in the values, and the values should be a numbered thing. Now, it's possible that you can use other settings besides sum. So on any of these things, you can click on the list arrow, which pops up this list, and go to Value Field Settings, and you can see that you've got a number of things you can use, but for the values we want to use the sum. And so now we have a table, and we also want to filter this. So the columns over here, we have in cell B3, if we click on that, we have the same list that you saw before, and we can do the same thing. We can deselect, and we can pick 2 cities, and now we can see just those 2 cities in our pivot chart, or pivot table, and we can see their values on both each of the different behaviors. And so the next thing we'd like to do is actually make a chart out of this. And because I've narrowed this down, it's a little hard. I'm going to expand the window so you can see more of the menu items up here. So we have Pivot Table Tools, and we click on that, and we have Analyze and Design. If we click on Analyze, we have these options here, and one of the most important ones is Refresh. So if you were to change any of your data, not what you filtered and sorted, but actual change the data, like the numbers in the data value, your pivot table would not reflect that until you go up here and choose Refresh All. And you only see the pivot table tools when you're clicked in one of the cells in the pivot table. If you click over here, those go away. So pivot table, analyze, refresh the data will update any changes you made in the data that the pivot is drawing from. But now what we want to do is the pivot chart. So if we just click here, it's going to give us again some suggested charts, but we'll just take the one they suggest and put that in here. And so now we have the pivot chart, which shows the same data as what we have in the table, but now it's in a chart form. And one of the very interesting things that you can do now is you can also use the same list arrows here. This filter icon shows you that this has been filtered, but if you wanted to add a new city, you just check that box, and now you have another city added to the list. You can also change which of these measures you're showing, so we could just cut this back down to the 2 we looked at before, and so now we're just covering lack of physical activity and obesity. When you right-click on the white space of the chart, you get a lot of options here, and one of these would be to copy the chart. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to copy, and then if I go back and open the Word file that I had, I can paste this chart. Unfortunately, I put this right at the top, so I need. I'm stuck, kind of stuck in my works cited here. Oh, there we go. I'll put it down below. I'll move that later. So if I do a paste, I wanted to show you that you have several options. You have embed, and what embed does is it actually includes the entire Excel file as part of the Word file. So there's two ways of doing that. Use the destination theme or keep the source formatting. Then we have a link, and so we can do the link with the destination theme or the source formatting, and then we have a picture. So if we put a picture, it's just a picture. But I'm going to do keep the source formatting and link. Alright, so now we have this chart in the Word document. And if I go back to my Excel file and I decide that I need to make some changes here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 2 more cities. Alright, so now I've added those 2 cities. If I go back to Word, you see that those have been added to Word because that link is a live link. And so I just wanted to show you how easily you can update your Word document if you use a link. If you use embed, what you have to do is double click on the chart, and that opens the Excel file. You do your edits, then you close it, and then the chart again is displayed in Word but with whatever edits you made.